Hello. All right, so we are recording now. So I'm working this problem +1. So this problem is basically saying, given a non-empty array, so we don't have an empty array of digits representing a non-negative integer. So all of our numbers are going to be positive or 0 because 0 is a non-negative integer, right? Increment 1 to the integer. The digits are stored such that the most significant digit is at the head of the list, and each element in the array contains a single digit. Okay, so basically what that means is that we're like working with like normal numbers. Like right here, 1, 2, 3. Like this one is like basically the hundreds place, like 4, 3, 2. It's basically saying like that we're basically working with numbers in like a normal way, because it says you may assume the integer does not contain any leading 0 except the number 0 itself. So like, how do I like to work on these kinds of problems? Well, one good way to do it is I think to myself, what's like the simplest way of doing this problem? Let's take the simplest example, right? So let's make one up right now. So if we're trying to add, like right here, go over some more examples. It says 1, 2, 3 and 1, 2, 4. So we do +1, we add a 1 to this number right here, right? And we get 1, 2, 3, and then we add 1 to this number 3 right here. And then we get 1, 2, 4. So basically we're incrementing the number that we're given in the array by 1, right? For example, 0, add 1 to 0, it becomes 1, right? So let's like draw this out a little bit, right? Like, what's our simplest case? What's like the smallest non-negative number that we can think of? 0, right? 0 is non-negative, right? So we have 0, and we're always adding 1, right? So let's think of 0 as our input, and we're always adding 1. So we have 0 plus 1, right? What is 0 plus 1? Well, 0 plus 1 is 1. Okay, really cool. That's cool. Now let's think of like making a different example. Let's try like the number, I don't know, like 8, right? So let's do 8, and then we have 1. This right here, we're adding, and this is going to give us 9, right? Okay, so it looks like when we add 1 to these numbers, we always get like 1 above. That makes sense, right? Now, what if we have like the number 9, right? And then we add 1. If we add the number 1 to 9, something different happens. We noticed before, right? Because like here, we're going to get 9 plus 1, obviously 10, right? So like, what's the difference? This right here has length 1. This right here has length 1. This right here has length 2, right? So like, I see this, I'm just like, okay, so like, this is like a different like case that we have to account for in our code, right? Because here, our output was something of the same length. And then here we added like an extra element to the length, right? Because here we did, what's 9 plus 1? 10, right? And if we think about our output, right, which from the problem said we were working with arrays, right? We have like, well, I'm gonna type this part out. Now we have like, and I'm typing it out here first just to make it a little bit simpler because I don't like working in Leetcode that much. So let's say we have like define plus underscore 1, and then that is right here. This is like array 1, and then this is array 2, right? So there we have array 1, array 2. Let me see. I'm going to. All right, so let's get back to it. So I paused the recording and I'm starting kind of where I left off again for a couple of minutes because somebody's vacuuming. It was really loud. So starting over again. So we have two arrays, right? You have array 1 and array 2. Let's pretend that like these two arrays, right? We're going to say like plus underscore 1, right? We're going to have, we're going to take in, let's call it array 1. We're going to take in array 2. And these arrays, right, we're going to have it equal to, so I'm going to make array 1. Actually, we're not working with, we're just going to have one input array, right? Because we're adding 1 to the array, right? So let's say array 1 is equal to like 0, right? So array 1 is equal to 0, and let's see what the error is. Indent expected. Oh no, this is totally fine. So I just forgot what do you call it? It just gives you an error right here. So I can say print array 1, going to get rid of the error. Okay, cool. So now we have our array 1 right there, right? 0. So what do we want to do to the 0, right? We want to basically copy the process of adding 1 to it. How would we add 1 to this array? Well, in this one, we only have one thing in there, right? So we can just go like array 1 at position 0 plus equals 1, right? And then we can just return array 1, right? And we can also just print out our result. And now we see right there we have 1. Okay, cool. But now let's say that we are working with like the number 10, right? And so this is how it's going to be represented in the array as it was in the Leetcode problem. And now we have, if we add 1 to the position 0, we're actually adding to this right here, to this 10th place instead of the ones place. So how do we always add a number to a ones place? Well, to always add a number from the ones place, we're going to have to start from the end of the array, right? Because let's say we had like the number, how do I write down stuff down? Let's say we had like the number 100, 1000, right? Do we add 1 here? No, we do not. We add 1 right here. So we always need to go to the end of the array in order to add the number 1. That's 1001. Cool. So we need to get to this, right? How do we get to this? We can use reversed range. So you can say like for I in reversed range, right? For the length of array 1, right? We can say like print array 1 of I. So let's see what happens if we go in reverse, and let's make this right here a larger number, like 1, 2, 3. So we should get 3, 2, 1 outputted. No, I added right here. So let's not add. Now we have 1, 2, 3. Oh no, over here it's 3, 2, 1, right? It went in that order. And this is the final number, right? So what we need to do is we need to add 1 to the final number. Another way of doing that as well is you can just do -1, right? Plus equal 1. And now you can have 4 right there. Okay, cool. So you have this right here, and you have 1, 2, 4. But like, okay, so this works, right? Right here, right? But then this breaks down, right? Like this code right here. And that's the reason why I added this as well. I'll show you right now. So let's say we have like 1, 2, 9, right? What happens? Now we have 1, 2, 10. So now we have the number 10, right? In the last place. We don't want the number 10 there, right? So what we need to do is, what should this number actually be, right? We're getting, let's think about this, right? So we have 1, 2, 10, 1, 2, 9, right? So 1, 2, 9, right? We add 1 plus 1, and now we are getting, I'm terrible at drawing lines. I'm using my mouse pad right now, by the way. So our code is returning this 1, 2, 10, right? Now, what does this remind you of? It? I look at this, I'm just like, oh snap! It's like, you know, like grade school addition, right? So it's like we have a 10 here. So what happens when we have a 10, right? We have to carry the 1, right? What does carry the 1 mean? We're adding a 1 right here, right? And then this becomes 3. So what we really need to do is, if the last thing in the array, basically, right, is a 10, right? The last thing in our new array is a 10. That means that this 10 is going to become a 0, right? And then the next number is going to increase by 1, right? And this is actually just going to keep happening, right? So we're going to say if array of I is equal to 10, right? What are we going to do? if array of I, or array, I'm just gonna change this to array. There's no reason for it to be array 1, right? If array of I is equal to 10, what am I going to do? I am going to, so what did I do here? I set array of I, right? Equal to 0. I mean, array of I set it equal to 0, and then array of I minus 1 plus equals 1, right? That's basically what I did. So now that works, right? Now let's try another number here. Let's make this be like 139, 136. Okay, so I'm like, cool, it works in these cases, right? But there's still like one more case we need to think about, right? We have the case of when a number, right? Let's think about like the number like 99, right? Like, will this work for the number 99? Because the reason why I'm working with nines right now is like I keep expanding my thought process. Before I was starting with 0, then I started with like different numbers, and now I realize like 9 has different cases, right? So if 9 leads me to a different case, right? Like, what if I have like all 9s, right? What if I have like 99 plus 1, right? This should give me 100. Let's see what it gives me. Okay, gives me something entirely wrong, right? I'm just looking at this, I'm like, why is this so off, right? 99 becoming 0, 1. Let's look at this, right? We have array of -1 plus equals 1, right? So array, this right here becomes 10, right? So then this number right here, array of I, becomes equal to 0, and then array of I minus 1 plus equals 1. It's just like a complete and total mess, right? And I don't understand, like, I don't know anybody who like try doing this. But for me, like my brain, when I see this, I think about something entirely different, right? So right here, right, we have this right here is of length. Let's think about this, right? Think about your inputs and think about your outputs, right? This right here is length 2, right? I'm just going to say it out loud because this is crazy to draw this out of my hand. So this is length 2. This is length 1, right? Length 1. Lazy. And then we end up with a length 3, right? Meanwhile, everything else that we've worked on has remained consistent to the length of the input, right? So what does this tell us, right? What does this addition look like, right? We have 0, right? Then we have a 1. We carried the 1 here, right? So you have 0, carry the 1. And then what happens? We get a 10, right? A 10 in the first spot, right? Let's look at the number 9 as well, right? We have 9 plus 1, and then that is equal to 10. So we got a 0, and then we carried the 1, and we went from only having a length of 1 right here, right? To having a length of 2. So this tells me that, like, when you carry a 1 into the first spot, you're actually putting down 2 numbers, right? Because if you think about addition, like here we had 0, 1, and then we had a 3, right? We weren't adding anything else. But now we're adding other things to the very beginning of the array, right? So we're adding 2 spots right there, right? We're literally putting a 10 at the very front of it, right? So we put as 1 in the front and then a 0 at the end. And I don't even know how to explain. I think I've explained it pretty well, but you know, like this is like the way that math works. Yeah, I think these are like sufficient number of examples. Or unless you guys want to let me know if you guys think that like some things needed further clarification. But yeah, so basically what I'm trying to say is, if you're in your very first index, so if you're in your 0th index right here, we're at the 0th index of the array, and you get the value of 10, right? Like, let's say you have like, let's actually reduce this example even smaller to make it more clear. Here, this is equal, this should give us back 10, right? So what happened is that we're actually losing the 0 at the end, right? So let's see what happens then if I say like, So if we know that the first index is a special case, the very first index, which is the 0th index, right? So we're only going to want to do this right here, these operations from, so I'm back now, and I realized that the mistake was that I was putting, I was trying to demonstrate the example, but I was putting the 1, right? Like this one over here. So it's saying like reversed 1, instead I was supposed to put the 1 within your range. It's like a simple like language mistake. You have to be really careful, right? So we have reversed range between 1 and the length of the array, right? So we're saying like, okay, as long as I, right, our I is not the 0th index, which is a special case, right? Then what we're going to do is we are going to take that, like right here, right? We have 999, right? So what do we want to do with this 10? How do we convert this right here into, because the 0th index is a special case, how do we convert this 0th index into a into 1000, which is what it should be? So we can easily do is we can just be like, okay, so if array of 0 is equal to 10, array of 0 is equal to 1, array dot append 0, and this should give us back our correct answer every single time. I'm just going to put this into Leetcode to see if it works as well. Hopefully it does. I think it should. Okay, this is, it says return array 1. Did I have array 1 there? What? Okay, it works. All right, now how do I submit it? Global name, oh, they call it digits here. Okay, so that did work. And that is how I solved this problem, just like walking it through from simple cases to more special cases. Like you could make this code like cleaner, I guess, in different ways. But this is fine. So yeah, stopping the recording.